where to
It's
start.
frustrating. It's frustrating that a lot of people give that a pass and they'll say, this is where you draw the line? Yeah. This is where I draw the line. When announcers mention it, it means that they saw it.
Yeah, right. And I saw guys were kind of trolling you a little bit, saying suspension of disbelief. And I'm glad that we have Nigel, who's got like production experience, because I want his take. So I'm going to try to start this as okay. So Vince McMahon, right, Nigel? Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
For decades, he has wanted WWE to be spoken in the same light as Hollywood productions and as television shows, regular television shows.
Okay.
That's why he coined the phrase sports entertainment. That's why he did it. And that's why when somebody says wrestling, he doesn't like that word and he cringes and he says, that's what my dad did, because his dad was a wrestling promoter before him.
Okay.
Even though in theory it's the same thing, except now there's more lights and color and better gear and stuff, but it's still essentially the same thing, right?
A lot of camera cuts from what I understand.
No, I'm just talking two guys in the ring,
okay,
fighting over a title or fighting over an issue. Same thing as Dad did, it's just evolved,
okay,
right? So the problem with wrestling that makes it different from other shows is that on traditional television shows, the actor does not acknowledge the presence of a camera, right? On traditional television shows, you as a viewer think that you're kind of inside, you know, watching the story unfold with these actors, but they don't acknowledge the presence of the camera. The problem with pro wrestling is that wrestling, because it's more like sport, they do acknowledge the presence of a camera. They acknowledge it in promos when they look right into the camera. They acknowledge it in the ring during matches. They even have wrestlers backstage watching monitors, right, Sean? Like watching the monitors.
Sideways.
Right. So they clearly know there's a camera there, right? The problem with WWE, and this is not just a WWE thing, because like all the other promotions have done it at some point. You remember when Ric Flair was buried in the desert, Sean? Yeah. Remember that? So like other guys have done it, but the problem with WWE is that they acknowledge a camera when it's convenient to acknowledge a camera, right? When the storyline calls for them, maybe you're not supposed to acknowledge a camera, then they don't. But you can't have it both ways, right? So in my opinion, when you craft the storyline, you need to figure out how to show the viewers the angle if it's supposed to be secret. Like you need to figure out a way to show it to them. So on SmackDown this week, Mandy Rose, this girl Mandy Rose, has an issue with another wrestler named Naomi. Naomi's married to a wrestler named Jimmy Uso. So Mandy Rose is thinking, I'm going to split up their marriage by seducing Jimmy Uso, right? So there's a segment backstage where Mandy Rose is talking to her friend Sonya Deville, revealing her plan that I'm going to screw with Jimmy Uso. The problem is they did it standing like they always do, where one of them is here and one of them is here, and even though they're like next to each other, they kind of look forward because they got to get a good camera shot, right?
Yeah.
And there's clearly proper lighting on them because there's clearly a camera there, right? But she secretly reveals her plan to Jimmy Uso. That was dumb, but I could kind of get past that. Sean, the hotel room, Sean.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of lost my shit. So Mandy Rose is in the hotel room with Jimmy Uso, doing the same thing where they're kind of standing side by side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the proper lighting and stuff, because they're clearly on camera. And she's telling Jimmy Uso, I'm going to fuck with your marriage, and blah, 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 blah. Then a door opens in the back, and a photographer runs in and starts taking pictures of them. And that camera, they acknowledge. They acknowledge that camera. And Mandy Rose says to Jimmy Uso, oh, as soon as your wife sees those pictures, that's going to be it for your marriage. Even though all Naomi has to do is watch the show, and it'll be clear to her that it's a setup. You know what I'm saying? They, in the same segment, ignored a camera and acknowledged the camera at the same time. They managed to somehow do that.
It was so frustrating.
It was really bad. It was really bad. If they want to do a storyline where stuff is being done in secret, and I know you talked about this on the post-SmackDown show, if they want to do it, they have to get creative. If they want, like you suggested, use surveillance footage.
Yeah, like found footage type stuff.
Or something like
Shaky
that.
Camera,
or do something. Like I think you suggested, Sean, that like Mandy Rose would have a hidden camera set up, and then she could show the footage afterwards. Something. Get creative, but instead all they do is they go from point A to point B storyline-wise, and then the execution is where it lacks. Somebody tweeted me and they said, well, Being the Elite does it all the time. And my reaction to them was, that doesn't make it good. Because again, I realize that there are people that love the Young Bucks and Cody and they think that they're friggin' saints, right? Just because they do it doesn't make it good. But the Mandy Rose thing was, oh my God, was it bad. It was one of the worst, as far as, you know, you acknowledged it and you didn't at the same time. One of the worst things I've ever seen on WWE television.
Yeah, I don't like that, man. It was too inconsistent. And when people say, "Oh, it's not masterpiece theater," I don't give a shit. Just because you all hold it to such a low standard doesn't mean that I have to.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, it's one thing to suspend disbelief, which is what a lot of the pro WWE people are saying. It's another thing to insult the intelligence of the viewer.
Yeah.
And again, when my wife, the casual fan, is chuckling at how ludicrous this is, and that's the casual fan that doesn't think as much about it as like the hardcore wrestling fan does, that tells you how dumb the whole thing was.
Yeah.
And man, was it stupid. So, okay, I'm done venting for the week.
You did. You vented.
It's just very frustrating as a wrestling fan. I want WWE to do well. I want to watch the show every week. I want it to be entertaining. I don't want AEW to die. I don't want them to die. I want them both to succeed. It's good for the fan base and it's good for the wrestlers. How much of this dog shit can you watch? You know?
It's heavy.
It gets frustrating, man.
It is frustrating because you have all these people that are being paid to write compelling TV. And part of compelling TV is making sense of things. And one of the caveats of the Mandy Rose Naomi storyline, Mandy Rose showing up in a towel and disrobing,
wearing more stuff than she does in the ring.
Same with Alexa. So one of the caveats of that, when there were complaints about the Alexa Bliss thing, were, well, at least Mandy Rose is in a storyline and it makes sense. And I was like, okay, yeah. And it made sense until last night.